Welcome to another very special day at Calluna Vineyards. It's actually a rainy day here. You may not be able to see that on the camera, but you see it's very gray and rainy and we need the rain, so that's great. But on this afternoon, we are going to do the blending trials for our 2020 reds. So you'll see I pulled barrel samples from not quite every barrel we have, but certainly from every lot, and multiple selections within each lot or vineyard block, which we'll be talking about. We're going to start with our Merlots. We have 4 different Merlot blocks, starting with the Bordeaux vineyard that we make that single vineyard bottling from. We'll go into our Cabernet Sauvignons, of which we have 4 blocks also, including our Colonel's Vineyard. Then into the Malbec, the Petit Verdot, and the Cab Franc vineyards. So we will now pour out this broad range of our 2020 vintage. We're going to start by blending our 2 small production wines first, the Merlot Au Reynaud and the Colonel's Vineyard Cabernet. Then we'll take on the bigger task of blending Calluna Estate. So generally we start by blending our Merlot Au Reynaud bottling, and that's, we think that is a single vineyard bottling, so that's relatively easy to blend, but there are still a number of choices to be made here. And we've got, in a sense, 3 versions of this wine from that same vineyard. We have the free run of the wine in a neutral barrel. We've got the free run wine in a new barrel, and then the press wine. And just to clarify, free wine is the, when you throw the berries that are crushed into a fermentation tank and ferment them. The free run wine is what just flows out and comes out on its own. The press wine is when you gather the skins, put them in a wine press, and press out the wines. The free run tends to be a little finer, whereas the press wine tends to, it can have more flavor, but it tends to be a little more rustic, sometimes a little tannic, although these Merlots are not very tannic. But good wine, great wine is often, people say a little combination of both free run and press is important. So we'll play with these, and then, as most of you know, our Merlot Au Reynaud is kind of a Saint-Emilion blend, so we use a little bit of our own estate Cabernet Franc in that. So we'll come back and play with bringing in the elements of the free run wine, the press wine with a new barrel, as well as a little bit of Cab Franc. So there are all these elements we need to bring together to make Merlot Au Reynaud. So then, after making the Merlot Au Reynaud, we'll work on blending the Colonel's Vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon. Since that's another single vineyard, small production wine, it's fairly quick to make that one. Then we move on to the bigger job of making Calluna Estate. That's our Cabernet blend. That's a selection of the best fruit on our property from each year. So once we agree what barrels we want to initially include, we start doing the blending. This purpose here is for us to be able to try a small glass of this. So you see us using graduated cylinders and even a pipette here to make a small glass of wine. So I'm ably assisted here by our son Peter and our niece Heidi. Peter pours out some of the wine and we're going to taste it and see what we think. So this becomes an all-day iterative process where we make multiple iterations of this wine and build it up. We start with a base, we like it, and then we add on different wines from there. So as the afternoon progresses, we'll go through, again, many of these blending builds where we start with the base and then we're adding newer elements. Does it make it better or worse? Better or worse? And towards the end of the day, we tend to end up with 1 or perhaps 2 finalists for this wine. After our long day of blending trials, we've come down to 2 wines for the Calluna Estate, which could be finalists. And as always, I like to have Marla make sort of a final judgment on these, so she's gonna taste these. The first one has a little bit more Merlot than the second, but these are both wines that are over 75% Cabernet Sauvignon.
Very smooth.
Okay, good.
Tough choice. I think I actually prefer the second. To me, they're both very smooth. I feel it's a little bit richer.
A little more Cabernet in that one.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go with that.